And now we play this game called the blame game. What is the blame game? It is where the United States of America's Department of State, Marco Rubio, Donald Trump, Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, let me see, Pam Bondi, that whole crew, that whole gang, try to bob and weave accountability and ownership of the torture of 238 people in El Salvador and then their role in it. And it all started when the United Nations started asking questions. So Andre Hernandez Romero and three other men's family members went to the UN because the Trump administration, in every single docket and where this was involved, in front of Judge Paula Zenas in the District Court of Maryland, in front of Judge Jim Boasberg in D.C., in front of Judge Stephanie Gallagher in Massachusetts, when those judges asked the Trump administration, who the hell told y'all to send those people there? Give us a copy of the agreement. How many men are there? Who are there? How long are they there? Who told them to go there? Who's controlling them? They're not answering the questions. They're obfuscating. So these family members was like, you know what? F y'all. We're going to go to the United Nations, because though Donald Trump is trying to remove the United States from the United Nations, El Salvador is still very much a member. El Salvador still has agreements, still getting some level of funding. So El Salvador, they care and they're going to answer. So there's this report that was filed. It's called is involuntary involuntary removal, involuntary, what's it called? And when the United Nations, on behalf of those four families, sent an inquiry communication to El Salvador asking them and accusing them of doing this involuntary disappearance of these people, El Salvador was like, what are you talking about? I'm gonna read specifically what they said, their reaction. They were like, we did an agreement. We were paid $6 million to house these people. The reason why we have them is because the United States government sent them to us. At any given moment, if the United States government wants to allow these people's family members to communicate with them, the lawyers to communicate with them, they can. We, the people of El Salvador, the nation of El Salvador, the Republic of El Salvador, is not stopping these men from communicating with their lawyers or their family members. Our only agreement was to hold them. That's it. And specifically, let me just read, and that's the translation, but let me read specifically what they said.
You should know that essentially what Salvador is saying is that it's just a contract. It says the actions of the state of El Salvador have been limited to the implementation of a bilateral cooperation, which is a contract, mechanism with another state, which is the United States, through which it has facilitated the use of Salvadoran prison infrastructure for custody of persons detained within the scope of the jurisdiction of that other state, which is the United States. And it says it's the legal responsibility of these persons lie exclusively with the competent foreign authorities, foreign to El Salvador, the United States, by virtue of international agreements signed in accordance with principles of sovereignty and international cooperation of criminal managers. So essentially just saying, this is just a contract. The judge, Stephanie Gallagher, said, according to this, what El Salvador said, essentially they're saying that, the responsibility is on the United States government. And no diplomatic discussions should be required here because El Salvador has no sovereign interest in Christians' continued confinement in that country. So they're just saying, we don't know what you're talking about here. This has nothing to do with us. We were just doing our job pursuant to a contract agreement.
But what the hell America is saying is that it's up to them, not us. They're throwing us underneath the bus. We have nothing to do with them. So this is a problem because the United States government consistently, before Judge Paula Zenas in the District Court of Maryland, before Judge Jim Boasberg in D.C., and before Judge Stephanie Gallagher, I think, in Massachusetts, when those judges have said, where are these people Can you please facilitate their return? What's the update? What's going on? They consistently say, we have to negotiate. We're doing some sort of diplomatic negotiations. They're claiming privilege. They're claiming like national security privilege because they're saying we're doing diplomatic. This is between us. It's up to El Salvador. All the while, El Salvador blows up their spot and say, what the hell? Nah, this is our job is just to hold these people, and we're getting paid to hold these people. If y'all want to give them to, that had nothing to do with us. Now, so they're caught in a lie because they've been lying on the dockets. They've been lying to these judges. These judges are the judges that are considering criminal and civil contempt. And I believe they have more than enough evidence that the Trump administration civil, that's what they've been doing. The Erez Renueve whistleblower statements alleges that Drew Ensign, who's the Department of Justice attorney who was arguing before Jim Boasberg, was well aware, based on text messages that he presented, that he more likely than not would potentially get sanctions for not for the United States government defying the court order that was given on March 14th saying do not send these men to El Salvador. And that's what what's his name, Emil Bouvet, according to the whistleblower, was communicating. And they were saying, oh Jesus, like, oh my God, essentially expressing indignation and like stress about how they're getting in trouble because they're purposefully ignoring the judge's orders, to which Emil Bouvet was like, F the judges for the most part. So that's already signs of civil and criminal contempt right there. Now, on top of that, you have them asking for updates, and instead of giving updates, being honest and forthright, they're lying and saying this has to do with some sort of diplomatic, whatever, negotiations, national security secrets. They're claiming privilege. Ain't no privilege. We said this before. If you watch me, my name is JJ Legal. We're on this social media. I'm helping you understand and decode what's going on, the lawsuits in the Trump administration and the dockets. And I've said before, when I talk about these cases, that it's just a contractual dispute. It's just like, and I always say, it's just like if you hire someone to take out your trash and you leave your dirt bike out on the lawn and they accidentally pick up your dirt bike and take it to the dump. You can call them up and say, hey, that was my dirt bike. You got to return it. And they'll say, all right, bring it back. I don't want to be comparing these people with trash, but that's essentially the same thing. It's a contractual thing. You control it because you hired them. We are paying them $6 million to hold these people. The Trump administration repeatedly saying, we don't have dominion of them. We don't know how to bring them back. Another thing too, why that's the second reason why it's bullshit. The third reason is when they need to, they do. They brought Kilmar Abrego Garcia back on that Rouge thing, saying that he's being prosecuted for human trafficking in Tennessee. They brought him back. They were able to bring back this other guy who they sent off to Mexico. So they bring people back. The whole entire thing about we can't bring them back is a lie. And now they're caught. And they're like, shit, how do we bring them back? So they say in the docket, Melissa Harper, who I'm going to talk about later on, had to do a declaration because Judge Stephanie Gallagher kept saying, y'all, I'm about to get y'all civil contempt. Where is this kid? So they require all those judges say, do us updates. So they did an update and declaration. Let me tell you what she said in the declaration. Essentially, they said is that the emphasis on sole discretion and exercise of the Salvadoran government. They were flown in Venezuelan aircrafts. Essentially, that's the United States government trying to take their fingerprints off of something. They orchestrated this, planned this, puppeteered it, negotiated it, had all control whatsoever of all the people, all their ability to communicate with their family members, and they did not. They chose not to. And they're now trying to push off the blame on El Salvador and Venezuela, trying to throw those two countries under the bus. And the reason why it does not even make sense, because what do El Salvador get out of it besides the $6 million? What do El Salvador get out of returning those people to Venezuela if it wasn't something that was negotiated by the United States, if it wasn't the United States government controlling everything? El Salvadoran got that $6 million to hold them. So they sent them to Venezuela because the United States told them to send it to Venezuela. There is no reason to just send these people to Venezuela. They don't care. They don't care what happens to them. So whether to communicate with their family members or the lawyers is up to the United States. So the United States is the one that was responsible for their involuntary disappearance. And the El Salvadoran government, the torture that the people endured, that's on the El Salvadoran government. They shouldn't be torturing people. But I can see the El Salvadoran government being able to say this. Our negotiations was for convicted criminals. That's what we negotiated. The Trump administration violated that contract on day one once they sent them non-convicted criminals, because the Trump administration and that 60 Minutes expose said that a good chunk of the people, I think like 90% of the folks, were not convicted criminals. And furthermore, not just that, they also sent women, they also sent nationals of other nations, even like Kilmar Gregor Garcia was from El Salvador. So the agreement was for Venezuelans, they sent non-Venezuelans, they sent women. They've reached the agreement on day one, and they sent a bunch of non-criminals. So El Salvadoran has plausible deniability. It was like, yeah, we brutalized them, yeah, we committed torture, which they shouldn't do because that's a violation of international law. But we thought we were beating convicted criminals. We didn't know we were just beating people whose only offense was the civil infraction of initially coming to the United States government without authority. But like I said before, a good chunk of them had already veiled themselves to the United States government, and they were going through the process legally. They picked a lot of these people up in court, meaning that they were going through the process. So all the idiots who always on my saying like they should go 6 feet under, they're just criminals, stay away, blah, blah, blah. To which I say, your grandmother is a freaking illegal immigrant. Anyway, I digress. JJ Legal. So yeah, that's the blame game. What do you think about that? Let's discuss below. Each one teach one. Share this video with other folks. I'm keeping you guys informed of what's going on docket and exposing hypocrisy. I got you.